Okay, so like I said in the last part of the tutorial, we're going to be taking data from the database. Now obviously, to start with, if we're taking data from the database and programming this part first, we need to put some dummy data into these fields. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click out my Insert tab inside PHP My Admin. I'm going to come down and I'm going to type a title, a body, and a date. So ID we don't need because that's auto increment, that will automatically go to 1. The title, I'm just going to say, this is some test news. And then I'm going to say, hi there, this is some test news. I hope this works okay. And then we can just say, new paragraph, because we're going to be dealing with a function that lets us display it exactly as it's been input. This is really useful. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Okay, so the date, we're just going to bring up this little thing. I'm going to click on 19th, it's the 19th today. I'm going to click go. Okay, so that's in there, and just for the sake of it, I'm going to put another one in, and I'm just going to write here, like blah, and then blah, blah, news, new line, new paragraph. Okay, and then at the date, obviously, we can just set to, I'll set it to yesterday, we might as well. Okay, so we're going to click go. So we've got two pieces of data inside. We can have a look at this by clicking browse. It'll just show us the data inside here, and you can see the ID has gone from 1 to 2, and then that will continue to increment up to however many records you have inside your database, or inside this table rather. Okay, so obviously we need the news to be displayed. This is pretty much quite standard code, and the way we're going to do this is, first of all, connect. You can use like an include connect.php if you connect into your database before, but otherwise we're going to be using the MySQL connect function, and we're connecting here to localhost because I'm running a local server, and my username is root. I don't have a current password, and then I'm just going to say or die, and inside here I'm going to say MySQL error, and what that will do is that will give us a MySQL error as standard MySQL would give us if we can't connect here. And then I'm going to say MySQL select DB, and the table we're connecting to, like I said, is PHP Academy. Remember not to confuse this with your table name. I mean, if I type news here, that would be wrong, pretty much because my database name, database here, is PHP Academy, and then further inside our query we can select from which table we want. So if you ever get confused with that, if it doesn't work, then have a look for that. Otherwise here I'm going to write or die, and then again I'm going to say MySQL error, and that will just give out a standard error to us, like I said before. Okay, so presuming that's all connected, we can query the database, and this is pretty much a well, in fact we can check this. We'll just test this. Let's refresh. Okay, yeah, so nothing's happened, and we've still got our two horizontal lines, which means that we haven't died here, otherwise our second horizontal line wouldn't be displayed. And I'm going to query the database. I'm going to call this get news, so we're putting it into a variable name. The reason we put it into a variable name is so we can later on use this query and take specific information from this query, and that is the MySQL query function. I can even spell it right. And inside we're going to say select star, so an asterisk, select asterisk, which means select everything from it, every single field, that's ID, title, body and date, from, and here's the part where we say news, and then we're going to say where. In fact, no, we don't need that at all. There's no more validation needed inside our SQL code. We don't need that inside our query rather. That's pretty much it. And then we can write or die, and again MySQL query. It might be useful actually to create a variable up here. I mean, you don't have to, this is just a bit of ease. You could say error, or e for example, equals MySQL error, and basically what you can do is in here you can just write e. Okay, that might be a bit easier. I'll leave it for now, but that's just a bit of food for thought if you'd like to do that. Okay, so we've got our query here. What we can do now is just again refresh the page and see if that, yep, that's pretty much seems like it's worked. Now what we're going to do, and I've done this in some of my other tutorials, I'm going to use a while loop, and I'm going to create a curly bracket block here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say while row equals MySQL fetch associative, right? That's ASOC for short. And basically what this does, like I've said in other tutorials, is it fetches the data as an associative array. So what we're doing here is we are getting ID, title, body and date as an array. ID would be 0, title would be 1, body would be 2, and date would be 3, as a usual array is. But because it's associative, we can say, well, I want to get the data from, let's say, ID 2, which would be 0, 1, 2. You don't have to write 2, you can just write body. If you don't know what I mean, you'll pretty much see in a minute. And like I said, because we've stored this query inside a variable, we can then say get news. This is getting an associative array from our query here. Okay, so inside here is basically getting our data, or rather echoing our data out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically say, if I know what we can do first, is get data. And we've got ID equals however we're going to do this, and I'm going to show you how to do this now. We're going to take this row into account, which is our array, and I'm just going to say row, and in square brackets, like you like it's a standard notation for an array. And then inside here, I'm going to say ID. Now usually you could write 0 for ID, but like I said, it's an associative, so we're using sort of name tags instead of integers. And if you are struggling with arrays and you don't know what I'm talking about, I do have an arrays tutorial in my basics section, so have a look at that. And we're just basically going to copy this code down. Title equals row, title, and body equals row, body, and the same with the date. So it's pretty easy. Once you've set up this piece of code here with the while loop, you're pretty much good to go. And now what we can start doing is echoing this data out. Now bear in mind we're in a loop, so the reason we're in a loop is this will get data from every single record inside our database. So for every single record we're going to echo out, which we need because we want every single piece of news to be echoed out. So what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to say echo. I'm going to pull this down a bit, and I'm going to say echo title, and then I'm going to say posted on date. I'm going to break down, and I'm going to say body, and then I'm going to have, let's say, another horizontal line. Okay, so now what we can do is we can come back to our page, and amazingly we can refresh, and there we go. We've got our two posted news basically there, which is pretty cool. However, we've got a few issues with our paragraphing and our new lines, so in the next part of the tutorial I'm going to show you how to fix that, and then we're going to get on with posting some news into the database. Okay, so I'll see you in the next part. Thank you.